Hi, and welcome to MONIN's Winter Drinks Trends webinar. I'm Lee Hyde, Senior Beverage Expert at MONIN for the UK and Ireland. And over the next 40 minutes or so, myself and a few of my colleagues will be bringing our Winter Trends report to life, which includes a national in-market review of what happened in the coffee and cocktail markets last winter, conducted by MONIN's team of beverage experts. From this, we added insights from a number of partners, including CGA and Allegra, to add real data to back up our trend predictions. Plus, we asked a few drinks experts what their thoughts and predictions are for the upcoming season to provide a first-hand overview of what's happening in the hospitality industry. Now, today we'll be running through key points from the report that will cover various out-of-home sectors, starting with the macro and hospitality-specific trends affecting the industry, then moving on to coffee and cocktail-specific insights, winter drink trend predictions with practical examples, plus some industry leaders' opinions. So if you're a bar manager developing your winter menu, a barista or cafe owner wondering what to expect from the coffee shop sector this winter, a wholesaler looking to stay ahead of the trends, or simply interested in the drinks industry, stay tuned. And if you're tight on time today, you can watch this webinar back at a later date, or feel free to skip to your most relevant section. You can also download our Winter Trends report via the link below. Now, before we get started, let me introduce MONIN to those of you who might not know who we are. So MONIN is a family-owned business, and we were founded over 100 years ago in Bourges in France, right in the center of France. Now, whilst the brand started with liqueurs, we quickly moved into syrup production, which is what we're best known for today. You'll likely have seen them on the shelves of your favorite coffee shops or bars all over the world. Now, as well as our ever-popular syrups and liqueurs, we also offer a wide range of other products, from tea and lemonade concentrates to frappes, fruit mixes, and sauces. But enough about us, let's get started. My colleague Libby will now run you through the state of the market and the key factors affecting the hospitality market today.
Thanks, Lee. So, looking at the wider market, where do we start? Well, unless you've been living under a rock, you'd have seen the headlines reporting staggering inflation and interest rates, which have all had a serious impact on the cost of living. In fact, 60% of adults in Great Britain reported an increase in their cost of living in July this year compared to June, which I'm sure you can agree we've all felt. Driven largely by an increase in energy and food prices, the latter of which are starting to fall now, but still remain 17.3% higher in June this year compared to June last year. These have had a negative impact on overall consumer confidence, which triggers a reduction in spending as consumers try to offset rising costs. However, it's not all doom and gloom, particularly when compared to a few months ago when inflation was at its peak. Both inflation and interest rates, along with the price of food, are all starting to decrease now. Weather is another key factor impacting the economy, and I'm sure you can all remember the blisteringly hot June and the really wet July, which in particular impacts footfall in the hospitality industry. But now let's look in a little more detail at the hospitality trends overall. When we look closely into the hospitality sector in particular, there's mixed feelings. First, we'd be remiss not to mention the staggering number of closures, particularly for licensed venues, but despite this, some key indicators remain fairly positive. Recent research from CGA recorded year-on-year growth in sales at managed pubs, bars and restaurants in every month of 2023 so far, whilst their business confidence survey indicates leaders' optimism has increased since the start of the year. But it remains relatively low, with just 54% of managed business owners confident in their own business over the next 12 months, and even less positivity amongst independent owners. But looking at the bigger picture, whilst there is a high number of closures, there are half the amount this year compared to the latter half of 2022. Looking at the coffee market overall, branded chains are performing particularly well, and the cocktail market is growing in value. However, it's worth bearing in mind that consumer demand for cocktails has actually fallen, so the rising value in the cocktail market is driven by price increases. And whilst consumer surveys provide invaluable insight into how people have and how they predict they will behave, it's important to keep in mind the age-old contrast of what consumers say they'll do versus what they actually do. For example, when we look at spending in hospitality venues, half of UK consumers said they were going to spend less on eating out than they did last year. But another report states that 61% of consumers are happy to spend the same amount on out-of-home special occasions as they did last year. But most research does agree that despite the rising cost of living and inflationary pressures, consumers are visiting venues less, but when they do visit, they're treating themselves to a more premium option, which means that their overall spending is staying around the same. The same goes for the coffee market. as despite the rising cost of living, it's quite a low-cost treat, which makes it an affordable luxury in the eyes of many consumers. And coffee shops are able to capitalise on the desire for indulgence during tougher economic times. Changing attitudes towards no and low alcohol drinks are driving demand, opening up new opportunities for bars and coffee shops alike, with mocktails getting more innovative and alcohol spritzes even appearing on the menus of some of the UK's largest coffee chains. But we'll cover this in more detail a bit later on. For now, I'll pass back to Lee, who's going to cover the coffee sector in much greater detail.
Thanks, Libby. That was great. Now, as you said, we're going to take a more detailed look into the coffee shop sector, from branded chains to independents, and then on to past and future trend predictions. So looking at the past year, the sector performed much stronger than expected, with the branded coffee shop market now worth an impressive £4.9 billion, growing at almost 12% over the last 12 months. Better still, all of the top chains received more orders than in 2021, and with coffee shop outlets increasing by 4.4% in the last year, the future looks really promising. Whilst branded chains have the benefit of huge marketing budgets and economies of scale, independents have a high level of loyalty from local consumers, more flexibility, and a better connection to their end consumers. Subscriptions and promotion of loyalty apps, as well as diversification of their ranges and offering, were no doubt crucial to the success of branded chains. But we'll cover this in more detail in a few minutes. From ready-to-drink releases to seasonal offers, brands weren't afraid to experiment with flavour, and we saw more iced drinks in the colder months than ever before. Now for some key drink stats. Last year, the latte was still the nation's favourite coffee shop beverage, followed by the cappuccino, then the flat white. However, in the last year, the hot chocolate jumped to third place, highlighting a growing popularity. A trend we can't ignore are iced and blended coffees. More on those later. When it comes to flavour, caramel is still on top, although it's closely followed by vanilla, salted caramel in third, and then hazelnut. Seasonal flavours were ever popular, and with pumpkin spice drinks coming out as early as mid-August, it's no surprise that this flavour saw the biggest increase. However, gingerbread still reigns supreme. As we mentioned earlier, despite the rising cost of living, out-of-home consumers see coffee as an affordable luxury, with customization on the rise too, from choosing your milk preference to adding syrup and whipped cream. In fact, last year, more than half of consumers added syrup to their coffee, at least occasionally. Milk preference is a key trend, and as we know, it's not only limited to those with dietary restrictions, but a conscious choice driven by flavour, health, and sustainability motives. In fact, almost 1 in 3 consumers drink non-dairy milk in their coffees. While semi-skimmed milk is still the nation's favourite, oat milk is almost certain to overtake skimmed milk this year, which will be the first time a non-dairy milk is in the top 3. And whilst it might be a little while yet before non-dairy milk becomes the default, we've seen many limited time offerings featuring milk alternatives this summer, such as Starbucks iced brown sugar oat shaken espresso, a mouthful, which we expect to continue and become more widespread this winter. Now, let's look at what happened in the industry last winter. First, we'll have a look at the key players, before some highlights from the high street, and we'll also look at some of the artisan coffee shops. We'll then look into what trends we predict we'll see in the upcoming season, with some exciting recipe inspiration that you can add to your menu or add your own twist to. Now, as identified by market share, the top 3 chains, Costa, Starbucks and Cafe Nero, make up almost 80% of the branded coffee-focused market, with almost 4,500 outlets combined. On the other side of the coffee market is the food-focused chains. The biggest would be Greggs, McDonald's and Pret. So let's take a look at the key elements from their winter menus last year, focusing on the trends we expect to continue into the upcoming winter and beyond. We saw a lot of flavoured hot chocolates last winter, particularly with a confectionery twist. For example, Costa's Toblerone and Terry's Chocolate Orange hot chocolates. The other key chains also utilise seasonal flavours, with a salted caramel brownie, Cafe Nero, and mint hot chocolate at Greggs. McDonald's played into the indulgence trend with a deluxe hot chocolate special, and Pret added a macaroon hot chocolate, which is the first time we've seen this flavour as a key winter drink. Another key trend from the big players were focusing on a series of serves with one common flavour. For example, Starbucks featured 3 different pumpkin spice drinks, which were an iced latte, cold brew, and a Frappuccino, whereas Costa featured their autumn flavour, maple hazel, across both an iced latte and a hot chocolate. Many of the key chains had a focus on iced and blended coffees, with consumers' taste for iced beverages undeterred by the colder weather. In addition to Costa's maple hazel iced latte was Starbucks toffee nut cream cold brew and Cafe Nero's cinnamon swirl latte, which was available hot or iced. Now, looking more specifically at each of the coffee-focused chains, let's start with Costa, the nation's favourite coffee shop. Their winter menu was extensive as always, with many different seasonal flavours, from their co-branded offerings with Toblerone and Terry's, to the return of a customer favourite, which is the Black Forest hot chocolate, which actually caused a bit of a stir on social media as it wasn't initially part of their winter offering. Their seasonal drinks were all either lattes or hot chocolates, which is no surprise considering they are both in the top 3 beverage winners. Next up, we have Starbucks, who are renowned for their innovative range of iced drinks, and they did not disappoint. Starbucks offered a wide range of flavour options, starting with pumpkin spice at the end of summer and working through the winter with regular seasonal updates, from salted maple and sour apple to celebrate Halloween. Then there was toffee nuts, praline cookie, caramel waffle, and eggnog, ensuring their customers' taste buds were satisfied throughout the season. This is reflected in Allegra's Project Cafe report, where Starbucks ranks as number 1 based on beverage choice. And lastly, we have Cafe Nero, who kept it simple with just 3 key offerings: a latte, mocha, and a hot chocolate, with 3 key seasonal flavours: Black Forest, salted caramel, and cinnamon swirl. Focusing on beverage quality rather than endless flavours has worked well for the chain, ranking them number 1 for beverage quality in the same report from Allegra. Now I'll take you through some highlights from the high street and artisan coffee shops. Unsurprisingly, we saw the same seasonal flavours at the smaller chains and independent coffee shops too. From Paul Bakery's Orange offering, featuring a latte and a hot chocolate, to Patisserie Valerie's Nutcracker hot chocolate and toffee nut latte. Blank Street Coffee took a more innovative approach with their candy cane cold brew. The dessert-forward outlets such as Creams, Krispy Kreme, Dunkin', Heavenly Desserts, and Tim Hortons all played into the indulgence trend, as is popular with their consumers. And they focused on pimped-up hot chocolates and lattes adorned with cream and seasonal flavours, such as honeycomb, black forest, chocolate orange, and salted caramel. Now, looking to the artisanal sector of the market, the hot chocolate trend continued with extraordinary serves at Milk Train and Elan, and health-focused twists at Starfish and Canoops. Special occasions such as Halloween and Valentine's Day offered an opportunity for brands to offer a limited time special. For Halloween, we saw chains diversify from pumpkin spice, turning to puns to give classic flavours a themed twist, such as the spooky salted caramel frappe at the M&S Cafe, to the Boo Berry Sundae at Milk Train. Unsurprisingly, we saw the return of all the pink drinks for Valentine's Day, whilst the Soft Serve Society focused on the turn of the Chinese New Year with rabbit-themed offerings. Now, looking back at last winter, there were a number of standout trends. These were mochas, winter ice drinks, the impact of convenience and technology, and non-dairy milks. Let me expand on each of these a little more. Firstly, mochas, which have always been a menu staple, but we are definitely seeing more and more focus and variety within the serve. Mochas are the perfect winter drink as they pair the habitual order of coffee with the indulgence of a hot chocolate. Venues can put their own spin on the classic serve to tailor it to the season. From an Asian twist at Panadera with their Filipino Milo mocha, to Starbucks hot chocolate topped with mocha sauce. It was echoed in retail too, with Pret, Mars and Galaxy all launching iced mocha RTDs. In fact, mochas are the second favourite iced coffee behind iced lattes, overtaking iced cappuccinos, which were second in 2022. Coming on to the second trend, where iced coffees are definitely no longer a summer-only choice. Take a walk on the streets of any major city and you just cannot miss the abundance of iced coffees. And this is increasing year on year. In the past 12 months, 71% of consumers purchased an iced coffee. It's by far the most popular choice of iced beverage. In fact, 40% of Starbucks UK beverages sold last year were iced. However, there is a clear demographic split here. This trend is driven by the younger generations, But whilst they are quicker to jump on the latest trends, the older demographic are also increasing their intake of iced beverages. The third trend we saw in the coffee shop market is changing lifestyles and technologies which are influencing consumer habits. One of the most prominent is the need for convenience. Through automation, drive-thrus and delivery, Costa and Greggs are two of the many chains who increased their investment in third-party delivery apps last winter. It's the perfect time, with colder temperatures meaning consumers are willing to pay more to avoid the inconvenience of travelling to get their favourite beverage in the cold. App adoption is also increasing as chains look to gather more first-hand data, promoting exclusive drinks, discounts and loyalty schemes. You'd be hard-pressed to find a coffee chain without its own loyalty scheme. And it's a worthy investment, with over 75% of coffee shop consumers regularly using a coffee shop loyalty scheme and 44% of those only ever visiting the operator they subscribe to. For independent chains, traditional loyalty stamp cards are common, and whilst apps are usually not an option due to the investment needed in setting them up, there are companies such as Squid Loyalty who offer digital loyalty apps for independent venues. And last but certainly not least was the rise in milk alternatives. Not only are most outlets scrapping the surcharge for plant-based milks, many ran promotional features highlighting a specific milk alternative. Not just Starbucks, but Cafe Nero's 2 cinnamon swirl offerings last winter included oat milk as standard, but topped with dairy cream. This suggests the growing influence of taste preference as a driver for choosing milk alternatives, rather than dietary restrictions. The influence of huge marketing campaigns by brands such as Oatly, in addition to on-trade support and at-home demand, is contributing to the projected 11% year-on-year growth over the next 5 years for the milk alternatives industry. Iced beverages are leading the way in the adoption of milk alternatives, with oat milk the second favourite choice of milk. This is influencing the overall coffee shop market milk trends, with oat just 1% behind skimmed, which currently sits in third place, and is almost certain to overtake it by the end of this year. So whilst dairy milk looks set to remain the default, the market is changing rapidly in this area, and we're excited to see what the future holds. Now let's take a look at what trends we expect to see this year. Now, looking at the 5 overall winter drinks trends we expect to see this year, covering both the coffee and cocktail sectors, which are coffee and cocktails merging, general flavour, colour and texture trends, the overall wellness trend, counteracted by the rise of indulgent serves, and finally, experiential. For each of these trends, I'll highlight relevant stats, followed by a recipe that you can add to your coffee shop menu this winter. Or you can use it as inspiration to create your own twist. Now, firstly, coffee and cocktails are merging. From coffee-focused serves in bars to cocktails having an influence on coffee shop menus. Bermondsey's Chapter 72 is a great example of this. Despite being a coffee shop, it's regularly ranked amongst the best espresso martinis in London, with their selection of innovative twists. Branded chains have also adopted this trend, such as Cafe Nero's non-alcoholic Italian spritz, and a range of mocktails at Heavenly Desserts and Elan. And this highlights an opportunity in the mid-afternoon, which is the third most popular time to drink cocktails, and this is where coffee shops can increase footfall by adding a cocktail or a mocktail to their menu. Here, I'm going to show you a fruity Java colada, which combines cold brew with pineapple syrup and is topped with a flavorful coconut cold foam. Secondly, the rise of colour, texture and adventurous flavours. With the perceived health benefits of many colourful ingredients and the inescapable rise of both frappes and bubble teas, we expect to see this trend continue into winter 2023 and beyond. Plus, with 28% of consumers seeking new and interesting options, innovation has never been more important. Here, I'll show you a twist on colourful lattes that not only look amazing, but taste it too. A spicy mango turmeric oat latte, which also works great over ice. The third trend we expect to see continue is the wellness trend. A direct contrast to the indulgence trend that I'll come on to next. The two main aspects of this trend are A, the perceived wellness associated with many alternative coffee shop beverages, and B, milk alternatives, which, as I previously covered, are ever popular. Back to perceived wellness. Consumers are looking to drinks with ingredients which have a known or perceived health benefit. The common examples being matcha, turmeric, and beetroot. Drinks with exotic fruits offering antioxidants are likely to become popular too. And to highlight this trend, I'm going to show you a matcha iced oat latte with a festive twist. This version doesn't include coffee, but to make it dirty, you can add 50 ml of MONIN cold brew. Consumers are increasingly looking to their coffee shop beverage as a reason to treat themselves, with over 11% of consumers citing the reason for their coffee shop beverage choice as wanting something indulgent, a slight increase versus last year. Indulgence in the coffee shop market comes in many forms, ranging from adding a syrup to their lattes, mochas, or hot chocolates, to choosing a more dessert-like beverage, such as a milkshake or a frappe. To showcase this trend, here's an amazing chocolate hazelnut mocha frappe, which combines our chocolate frappe powder with our roasted hazelnut syrup for a nutty chocolate taste, which is actually a great Nutella or Ferrero Rocher hack. The experiential trend takes many forms. National days and events are a great way to add an experiential aspect to your coffee shop offering through a themed limited time offering. Throughout winter, there's so many to choose from. So whilst branded chains are limited to the momentous occasions of Halloween, Christmas, and Valentine's Day, independents and smaller chains can be a bit more agile to offer maybe 1 week promotions to celebrate national days such as Toddy Day, Gingerbread Cookie Day, and even Chocolate Cake Day, which all take place in the winter. Now, here's a gingerbread cookie mocha that's perfect for all winter long.
Thanks for that, Lee. And as Lee said, I'm Dan Fellows, and I'm here to talk to you about some key trends that we're seeing in the specialty coffee industry. So first of all, we're seeing a big increase in transparency along the entire coffee supply chain, from producers to roasters, baristas to consumers, and everyone in between. We've never seen greater connectivity along the entire coffee supply chain, with events such as Meet the Producers happening, where consumers can meet the people who actually produce their coffee. We're also seeing a lot more coffee producers attending the global coffee shows, increasing that connectivity further. And a really cool thing we're seeing on the ground level in coffee shops is customers actually requesting coffees because they recognize the name of the producer, which is something we've never really had before, but it's a groundbreaking thing to happen. So the next trend that we're really seeing now, which is a really important one, is an increased focus on sustainability along that entire coffee supply chain. So historically, we'd see roasted coffee as almost the exclusive end result of coffee production, but now we're seeing other parts of the coffee leaf, the cascara, which is the coffee fruit, and other parts of the coffee being used in completely different ways. Some really good examples of this include headstand coffee leaf seltzer, which uses the coffee leaf as a flavoring, discarded cascara vermouth, which uses the leftover fruit from around the coffee beans, spent coffee being used creatively, either as an infusion or as a liqueur or a syrup, a byproduct of the roasting procedure called chaff, again being made into a really delicious syrup, or even leftover pastries that would otherwise go to waste being infused into a syrup. So obviously this opens the door to lots of innovation, and it's really exciting to see. We're also seeing innovations that usually would be reserved for barista competitions or home users being translated to the commercial market. So examples include WDT, the Weiss distribution method, where you kind of fluff up your grounds using small needles. There's also an automated version of this now available. This is quite common in coffee shops. We're seeing RDT, which is the Ross droplet method, where you'll actually spritz your beans to reduce any static. And a new age of espresso baskets with higher surface area, more holes, aiming to get a higher extraction. All of these now are fairly commonplace in specialty coffee shops, whereas previously they'd be reserved for those high-end barista competition stages and home machines where people have a lot more time. Related to those first 3 points is our fourth trend, and that's that high-end, specialty, prestigious, almost world-level coffee has never been in such high demand. So it's not uncommon these days to see coffees, a single serve, charged at around about £8 per cup, which historically would be very, very high. But this is still cheaper than the cost of a cocktail, and people can get one of the best cups of coffee in the world from rockstar producers doing amazing things, produced and processed innovatively and brewed to the highest level for £8 to £10 a cup, which for something they've never had before is actually quite inexpensive. And although it is expensive for a cup of coffee, there's so much work that's gone into that along the supply chain that this could be seen by a lot of people, myself included, to be great value. Something that I'm really interested in is the growth of coffee cocktails, and I'm seeing this everywhere I go. Pretty much every cocktail bar will have a coffee cocktail on the menu, and coffee shops are incorporating cocktails and those kind of techniques from the world of cocktails into the drinks they make. So we're seeing seasonal drinks, we're seeing coffee cocktails in bars, we're seeing lots of creative use of coffee, not just espresso martinis, Irish coffees, and your White Russians. There's so much more going on, and that's really exciting to see. And then finally, the power of social media continues to grow, with content creators such as James Hoffman, Lance Hedrick, Morgan Eckroth, Emily Bryant, Carl Rousell, the list goes on, all kind of questioning the norms and the things we've always understood to be true within coffee in order to really think about how we do things. And again, this is a really good thing. If we've been doing the same thing for a long time, we need to improve. We need to question what we're doing in order to make the best possible drinks. So they're the key trends that we're seeing. I'm going to hand it back over to the studio, and thanks for watching. Cheers, everyone.
So that's all for the coffee shop sector. I hope you found it useful and insightful. Now, if your coffee shop or brand needs any support creating your winter drinks menu, don't hesitate to reach out. We've helped hundreds of operators develop exciting, delicious drinks for every season, and we'd love to help yours. Now, stay with us as I hand over to Tony, who looks after our cocktail development at MONIN, and he's going to delve deeper into the cocktail sector.
Thanks, Lou. Moving on to the fun stuff, or the cocktail sector. Looking at the out-of-home cocktail market across all venues is a mixed picture on the whole. Closures across the industry are causing a decline in the number of outlets stocking cocktails. However, the proportion of the remaining venues who are stocking cocktails is increasing, suggesting that those outlets with a cocktail offering have been more resilient in the rocky economy of the last 6 months. Rising costs have caused the market to grow. However, this is driven by price increases across the board rather than an increased consumer demand. Unfortunately, both the percentage of consumers choosing a cocktail in the on-trade and the frequency of which they drink cocktails both slightly decreased this year, so it's important to take this into consideration when looking at the cocktail market. The main reason for the decline in consumption is price, largely impacted by the cost of living crisis that was at its peak at the time of the survey. That's not to say that the cocktail market is going anywhere, with a staggering 17.8% of Brits typically drinking cocktails in the on-trade, valuing quality over quantity. and also being willing to pay more for a cocktail than they were last year. With premium drinks, perceived added value from their cocktail experience, and clever price promotions, there's definitely a great opportunity for operators. So, let's dig deeper into where and when consumers were drinking their cocktails out of home. The preferred time of day for cocktail consumption has remained consistent with last year, bar the slight decline across the day. Unsurprisingly, evening remains the favourite time to consume cocktails, with most consumers drinking between 5 and 8 p.m, and 8 to 10 p.m. Late night cocktail consumption, defined as after 10 p.m, has seen the biggest decline, whereas a quarter of consumers prefer their cocktails mid-afternoon, likely driven by the rise in daypart drinking and bottomless brunches, which, despite the name, typically take place in the early afternoon. In terms of location, unsurprisingly, bars hold the largest share of outlet penetration, with over 84% stocking cocktails. Bars have increased their share of cocktail sales, now contributing to over 50% of all on-trade cocktail sales in the UK. However, experience-led venues have seen the biggest year-on-year increase in visits, and with many consumers interested in seeing cocktails stocked at different types of experience-led venues, such as bowling, arcades, bingo and crazy golf, there are opportunities to increase cocktail distribution across these types of outlets, and make experience-led venues a key channel for cocktail consumption. Looking at the types of cocktails consumers are drinking out of home, the Pornstar Martini remains in the top spot, and even increased in popularity versus last year. The Long Island Iced Tea Mojitos are on the decline, but still rank 4th and 5th most popular cocktails. Flavoured martinis have increased, now the 3rd most popular cocktail, and for the first time we're seeing a branded cocktail in the top 10, and it's no surprise it's the Aperol Spritz. Driven by the Spritz trend, which continues to grow in share. In fact, 1 in 10 cocktails in the UK are a type of Spritz. We were surprised to see that no tequila-based cocktails have made it into the top 10. However, with margaritas sitting at 2.8% of all cocktails served, we'd expect to see them make an appearance next year. However, it's important to know that these serves are hugely driven by mainstream venues who sell large volumes. For example, All Bar One, Slug and Lettuce, and even Wetherspoons. If you were to exclude some of these volume drivers, you would see more premium classic cocktails like Negronis, Old Fashions, and Picantes creep into the top 10. And, while summer remains the favourite season for cocktails, almost a third of consumers drink cocktails throughout the year, and with 36% of consumers changing to what they drink based on the time of the year, there's an opportunity to play with seasonality and winter-ready cocktails to increase cocktail consumption in the colder months. Now, let's take a look at what's featured on cocktail menus last winter, from high street chains to high-end bars. Looking at the high street chains, we saw more indulgent cocktails last winter, with both the cold weather and the treat myself trend driving the popularity of these serves. From the All Bar One and Hotel Chocolat collaboration, which offered 3 velvetized chocolate cocktails, to chocolate orange offerings at both Browns and Bar and Block. Gingerbread featured 2, with a seasonal hard shake at Byron. Seasonal spice drinks such as hot buttered rums and creamy liqueurs such as Baileys were ever popular too. Now for the high end, which is able to use their smaller volumes and specialised staff to their advantage, whether serving show-stopping cocktails served in extraordinary glassware, or simple yet elegant twists on classic cocktails to differentiate themselves. Amazing cocktails made with high-quality ingredients created by high-end bartenders all contribute to a premium experience which consumers are willing to pay more for. Quality of cocktails increased across the board, with the high-end leading the way. Bars are well aware of the power of social media, with Instagrammable serves a key driver for their menus. From extraordinary glassware at Nightjar and Filthy 13, to elegantly minimalistic and striking clarified serves at both Silverleaf and Tehran Elementary. Along with the previously mentioned indulgence trend, a few others stood out. The unavoidable rise of spritzes, even in the colder months, plus the rise in experiential bars, no and low alcohol drinks, hot cocktails, and some weird and wonderful flavours and textures. Let's now dig a little deeper into each of these. This year was no different, from the high street to the high end. We saw a key lime pie margarita at Oaxaca, which was a perfect dessert alternative topped up with whipped cream. The Alchemist had a creamy white chocolate and raspberry martini on its winter menu, whilst Coupette went all in on the indulgence with a confectionery-themed Oreo Loco. We expect to see even more of this winter. Secondly, spritzes are on the rise. Whilst this time last year spritzes made up 1 in every 20 cocktails, they now account for 1 in every 10 cocktails served. But whilst the classic Aperol Spritz will feature on nearly every cocktail menu, we saw a variety of long effervescent serves such as spritzes and highballs at Sexy Fish, the Cocktail Trading Co. and Nightjar, and riffs on classic serves such as the Woo Woo Spritz at Blinker Bar. What used to be a summer-specific serve is now being adapted into winter twists with the addition of seasonal flavours or simply themed cocktail names, such as Christmas Promise at the Savoy and the Yippee-Ki Royale at Cocktail Trading Company. Next up, the rise in experiential-led bars, from après-ski themed pop-ups across the country to the rise in immersive experiences. We saw consumers looking to get the most of their night out. Why just go out for drinks when you can go to a venue such as NQ64 and play on retro arcade machines whilst you sit? With experiential chains such as Flight Club, Swingers, Otherworld, Alcatraz, Shuffleboard and Bat and Ball all expanding, it looks like this trend is here to stay. Other venues without physical experiential offerings offer drink-led experiences such as Grind's Pumpkin Exchange, where you could take your pumpkin to a Grind coffee shop and swap it for one of their seasonal cocktails. Next up, the rise of no and low alcohol drinks. We saw exciting winter offerings across the industry, from pubs to dessert parlours and of course the high end. Many non-alcoholic brands sponsored activations in bars. For example, Piano Works collaborated with non-alcoholic spirit brand Calenio to offer every single cocktail in an alcohol-free version, whilst Everleaf partnered with Kalu Calais to offer a range of 4 non-alcoholic cocktails for January. And again, with Orbain to offer seasonal wintry highballs and spritzes. The no and low market is being driven by those looking to moderate their alcohol intake, rather than those who are going completely sober, which opens huge opportunities for the market to improve their no and low offering, and venues can benefit from brand investment to improve profitability, especially at key moments such as January and over the festive period where alcohol intake is usually higher. Hot cocktails returned like every winter, but this year we saw more bespoke serves. Whilst on the high street, nearly every menu featured a mulled wine and cider, in the high end we saw a spectrum of diverse hot drinks, from hot buttered rum at both Satan's Whiskers and Nightjar, to the ever-popular Irish coffees at Swift and Schofield's Bar, and a chartreuse hot chocolate at Cadogan Arms, which went down a store. With these hot serves winning multiple industry awards, we expect this trend to evolve into the mainstream venues next winter, as consumers are keen to try new and different cocktails at different times of the year. Lastly, looking at colour and texture. Whilst bright cocktails are nothing new, we're all familiar with the Blue Lagoon, the introduction of texture, commonly boba pearls, is something we haven't seen on this scale before. Some venues, such as Bubbleology and Las Iguanas, are merging the two trends, offering both bright blue cocktails and boba pearls for texture. This trend is going right to the highest end bars, with serves such as Cloud9 at the Connaught Bar to the High Street, who have long loved a blue cocktail, such as Under the Sea at Slug and Lettuce. Bars are getting more experimental with garnishes. For example, Below Stairs served their Happy Accident cocktail with a homemade beetroot tanfastic, which added an extra element of texture to the cocktail experience. Now, let's take a look at some menu suggestions based on the overall trends we covered earlier for the coffee shop market. Here, we look at how those same trends impact the cocktail sector and which we expect to see in the upcoming winter, which are as follows. First, the merging of coffee and cocktails, further than just the espresso martini. Secondly, colour and texture. From the high street to the high end, coffees to cocktails, bubble tea, tapioca and edible garnishes. Next, wellness and its impact on the overall no and low alcohol market, from functional benefits to record dry January sign-ups. The fourth trend is indulgence, with no doubt that consumers are looking to treat themselves, whether in a coffee shop or bar, and they're no longer restricted by dietary restrictions. Vegans, non-drinkers, indulgence is finally here for all. The fifth and final trend we'll cover is the rise of experiential bars, and how you can maximise this even if you don't have a physical activity on offer. First, with more bars featuring coffee cocktails and more coffee shops offering cocktails, with the lines are blurring between the two. We expect this to continue as venues look to maximise profits at quieter periods of the day. Coffee is the 6th favourite taste profile for cocktails, and the espresso martini is the 8th most popular serve, particularly in winter as taste profiles change. To show this, I'll make a raspberry and white chocolate espresso martini, which follows the indulgence trend, but also shows how changing the syrup can offer a diverse menu with no extra operational complexity. Secondly, bright colours and bold flavours look to be a key trend into winter, with 43% of younger consumers taking a picture of their cocktail and posting it on social media every time or almost every time they order cocktails. It's never been more important to ensure your cocktails not only taste great, but look as good too. Colours and textures are a great eye-catching way to do this. In this Spiceberry Collins, we put a festive twist on a classic serve, which is also bright, eye-catching and packs a punch flavour-wise. To make this non-alcoholic, simply leave out the gin or replace it with your favourite non-alcoholic spirit. Next up is the wellness trend. The biggest driver for this is the no and low alcohol market, which is being driven in winter by those who wish to moderate their alcohol consumption at a typically boozy time of the year. Outlets of every type are encouraged to have a fully fledged no and low offering covering cocktails, beer, wine and spirits. In fact, 25% of pub visits are now alcohol free, and an estimated £800 million of revenue was missed due to lack of suitable no and low options in 2022. Offering a significant opportunity for all outlets. Here, I'll show you a great alcohol-free alternative to the ever-popular Aperol Spritz, which can be utilised all year round, not just in winter. Indulgence is a key trend, especially in winter. Research shows that despite the cost of living crisis, consumers are willing to spend as much money in the on-trade on special occasions as they did last year. Indulgent cocktails make a great dessert alternative. Why not offer one on your restaurant's dessert menu? It can be as simple as adding a whipped cream or edible garnishes, or leaning into seasonal taste profiles such as creamy or chocolatey serves. Here's a great cocktail that's the perfect addition to your winter menu. Chocolate martini topped up with decadent salted caramel foam, which also doubles up as a perfect dessert offering, helping to drive your cocktail consumption towards the end of service. Lastly, the experiential offering. Whilst there's been a huge rise in bars with physical experiential offerings such as darts and bowling, here we show you how you can offer an experience through your cocktail menu through tying the drink into a seasonal celebration, such as Bonfire Night or Christmas. The serve I'll be showing is a smoky Scotch Old Fashioned, which, with some added theatrics, is a perfect drink for Bonfire Night or Burns Night.
Welcome to Mixology School in Brighton. We've been running training programs here for the last couple of years. Have a look at that wall. One of the biggest factors that we face as an industry is, of course, staff retention and staff attraction as well. So by offering your staff a decent training program, which encompasses coffee, wines, beers, spirits, cocktails, etc., I think will just add not only to their experience, but of course to their self-worth. I think well-trained staff are confident staff. Confident staff have the ability to sell to customers, to enhance their experience that they're having with you. I think this winter what we need to find is a lot more bartenders having fun, a lot more fun drinks being available, and of course the customers having more fun as well. It's been a very serious couple of years, and I think we all need to forget about those as quickly as possible.
So that's a wrap for our upcoming winter trends. Thank you for joining us, and I really hope you found it insightful and useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page, and please do share with any colleagues or anyone you think might find this useful too. If you have any questions, just pop them in the comments box below and we'll do our best to get back to you. Or feel free to drop us a message on Instagram. And be sure to tag MONIN in any Instagram posts that feature us for the chance to be featured in our weekly roundups of our favourite MONIN creations from the trade. If your venue or brand is interested in menu or drink development, we're a small team, but we have a wealth of drinks knowledge in everything from coffee to cocktails. And my team of beverage experts are more than happy to help where we can. We've helped hundreds of high street chains, independent bars and drinks brands develop seasonal menus from our Shoreditch-based studio. And the MONIN team is only growing to allow us to support more and more businesses around the UK and Ireland. So that's it from me, guys. We'll catch you at the next one. Have a great winter season.